Friends, we're landing the ship today. This is part 4 of our Life of Joseph series. Corey Russell is back with me as we conclude the life of Joseph. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning in. Friends, this is the 4th and final segment of our Life of Joseph series with Corey Russell. Dude, since we've done that at least 2 times, we got to just
it's our thing.
It's our thing. Bro, this has been amazing. These last 3 weeks have been mind-blowing. And as we're kind of going to bring the plane into a landing, every story of God ends in life. But we might doubt whether that's the truth when we're in the midst of the trial. But I'm just going to give you a clue. You're going to know the end of the story if you haven't read this story before. It's going to end great. I promise you. Don't turn the channel. No. So, bro, why don't you recap where we are? Bring us up to really the climax of this story.
So Joseph spent, he gives those dreams to the butler and the baker.
Yeah.
He tells the butler as he's going back, hey, remember me. Get a door open for me. He goes, yeah. Whoever that guy is. He goes, and so the butler forgets him. Divine amnesia is what I called it.
Divine amnesia.
And so fast forward a couple of years later, and now Pharaoh has dreams. Again, dreams, all the way through this thing. Pharaoh has some dreams. He has them in the same night. And the core and what's going to happen, he's going to have these dreams and he's going to send a word out. Get me all the people that know how to interpret dreams, understand dreams, come and get them for me. And then in that moment, the light bulb hits the butler. He goes, oh my gosh. There's a guy down there in the prison right now, 2 years ago, who gave me the dreams that restored me to the place I'm at. Bring him in here. And so Joseph is now brought before him. They have to shave him, get him all cleaned up. He comes in there and Pharaoh goes, okay, these are the dreams and the interpretation. And just for the amount of time that we have, what he is going to dream is that there's going to be 7 years of plenty. There's just coming 7 years of great produce, grain, and everything else. And then there's going to be 7 years of famine. And Joseph is going to hear both these dreams because Pharaoh had 2 dreams that said the same thing. 7 years of good, 7 years of bad. And Joseph hears it and gives the interpretation. And he goes, this is what you need to do. And this is wise of Joseph. Joseph goes, if I were you, I would find a wise and discerning man he's stepping in through the door. He goes, to oversee this whole process, because what you're going to need to do is save in the years of plenty so you have in the years of famine. And he gives him this and Pharaoh goes, I love it. You're the guy. You're the guy. And he goes, I'm going to make you head over everything. Only to me and the throne will you be second. You have everything else in a day. Now, if we had time to go in this, from that word at 17 years old of the dreams, now in a moment, down to Egypt, down to prison, false accusation, having to deal with temptation, all the waiting, and in a moment. And I think there are people that are watching today that need to understand God moves in divine moments. Amen. One door can shift things in a moment, and he is the God of the suddenly. And now Joseph went from stinking, beard grown, down in prison to he's now second in command over all of Egypt. And they walk through the 7 years of plenty. It's glorious. It's amazing. And then they enter into the years of the famine. And God is, again, going to use famine to set up the storyline of reconnecting the brothers.
I love it. I love it. Psalm 105, God sent a famine.
Yes.
Psalm 105, God sent.
He had already sent it, but that was like 20 years before. God sent a famine. God sent a man.
Yeah.
And here's the man. He's been humbled. He's been crushed. He's been broken. And he's been brought to a place of being able to steward what his dream was.
Amazing, bro.
The Lord gives it to us before we're able to walk in it. And here he is. And he's now administrating over the allocating of all the grain. And now they're in famine. People are coming from all over. They're coming from all over. And Jacob is going to send the boys saying, it's getting rough down here. Yeah. Go to Egypt and we need grain.
Yeah.
The brothers show up.
Yeah.
Their first coming that they're going to come. Joseph immediately recognizes them. He immediately recognizes them, and he starts, and you can still see that Joseph's working out some things. He loves them, he forgives them, but he says, you guys have come here to spy out the land. You guys have come here. They go, no, we're good people. He goes, no, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And he put all of them in prison for a couple of days. And he found out, he asked about their father. He asked about the other brother. He says, is there anybody else? He goes, yeah, there's a younger brother. And so Joseph is going to go, I don't believe you. I'm going to hold on. I want to hold on to Simeon. And so he held on to Simeon. He goes, all of you go back and you won't get Simeon out until I see the youngest. He wants to meet Benjamin, the brother that he had never met. He had never been with, and his heart's longing. It says in there that he's weeping over his brothers. He's in this dynamic. He fills them up with grain. He puts their money back in it, and they're now stressing. He sends them back. A little bit more time goes by, and Jacob goes, you got to go back and get more grain. And they said, we can't go back unless we bring Benjamin. And Jacob goes, I ain't sending Benjamin. I'll die. I've already lost Joseph. Right. Only got 2 boys from Rachel. Yeah. And finally, they end up talking to him. Judah, which is, again, part of the whole one that was getting him in the pit, is now saying, Dad, I'll bear this. It's on my life if anything happens to Benjamin. Brokenness has happened in Judah.
Yeah. Wow.
And Jacob goes, if I'm bereaved, I'm bereaved. Fine. Here's Benjamin. Here's the best of the fruit. And now they come back. And there's lots of dynamics. They're going to eat with them. They're going to have this time together. Joseph is going to see Benjamin, and he's going to weep and weep and weep. He has to keep going to the back room and weeping and then coming back in here, putting on a show for everybody, acting like he's talking to them. And then he goes back and weeps. And then it really brings us to about chapter 45.
Wow. Thanks for the recap. Just one verse stands out to me in 42. You refer to it, verse 8. Joseph recognized his brothers, although they did not recognize him. It's thank God for the Jewish people, because their rejection of Jesus opens the door for the world to see. You see, God doesn't just care about Israel. For God so loved the world that even that rejection of Jesus, not recognizing him, was a divine setup for the salvation of the world. For anyone who wills, come to the Lord. Here we are now in verse 45, the second coming of the brothers.
The big point you're saying is they didn't recognize him the first time.
They didn't recognize him the first time.
As the nation of Israel didn't recognize him the first time.
Right. And we know prophetically, according to Zechariah, that there's going to be a time when they're going to look on him whom they've pierced.
And they're going to weep.
And they're going to weep. They're going to look on Joseph, whom they threw in prison, and they're going to recognize him. The children of Israel, as far away as they are from Yeshua, Jesus, the King right now, that's how intimately acquainted they're going to be with him when he opens their eyes and reveals the greater Joseph to him.
This is it. 45.
This is it.
Is where he does it.
This is it. So let's just crack open to 45, and we're going to run 45 to 50 in the next 12 minutes. Come on. Joseph could not control himself anymore. His brothers are all before him. He couldn't control himself anymore before all those who stood in front of him. And he cried, have everyone go out from me, so that there was no man with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. You know how you said in a previous podcast, Joseph wasn't ready to get out of prison? Right here, you can tell he's ready. You know why? Because he had everybody leave the room. He did not want, when he revealed himself to his brothers, he didn't want anybody to know that it was these scoundrels that were responsible. It's almost like he was covering them. His brothers. So anyway, I want you to take off from here. I'll jump in wherever, but bro, this is amazing.
There's few moments in the Bible that I cry every time I read it like this. Tears immediately well up, because 22 years of build-up, pain, trial, all of it. He makes everybody leave, and then he takes it all.
Yeah.
And it says it just so common. It says this, and Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and he wept aloud And the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard it. And I always love to say this too, that I even believe that there have even been estrangement for people watching this with brothers and family members, and that there is coming restoration. Amen. It's in the heart of the gospel. Yeah. And this is about brothers. This is about family. Yep. And this is about restoration. It says that the whole house of Pharaoh heard it. First words out of his mouth. Joseph said, I'm Joseph. How's dad? Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed in his presence. They're just sitting here like this.
I think the Hebrew, and I don't know Hebrew, so don't be too impressed. It says they were terrified. Terrified. Like, this is the one who we sold into kill us. He's going to kill us. He's going to kill us.
He's going to kill us. That's what they deserved.
Yeah.
That's what they deserved. But as we can see it, let's just keep going. They were dismayed. Joseph said to his brother, look at this. Please come near to me. Father, forgive them. Come on. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they came near, and he said, I'm Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. How much work does God have to do in a soul to say that? To say, hey, just be easy on yourself. God sent me before you to preserve life. God sent me here. God did this. You didn't do it. And that's what he's going to keep restating. Yes. Those brothers don't believe it. They're so afraid. He's about to kill us. He's about to kill us. Yeah. And he goes, these 2 years has been in the land. God, look at verse 7, sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. He said it again. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, Lord of all his house, and ruler throughout the land of Egypt. Go get dad and tell him we got it set up for him down here in Egypt.
God sent me before you. Do you know how I want to respond when I see people who betrayed me? You low-life scumbag.
You did this.
You did this. And now I am going to do everything I can to make your life miserable and to make you feel condemned. Yes. You should not have done that. And Joseph, really a picture of Jesus, as you point out. Come closer to me. Yeah. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Bro, if we had a revelation of what we really deserve from the hand of the Lord, it would be utter and complete destruction. Yes. And Joseph is a man. How much more the Lord himself with this supernatural abounding. None of us, bro, are beyond God's touch. And that's encouraging for me, and I'm sure for anybody that's listening. We could have been these brothers. Absolutely. We could have been these brothers easily. And many of us today are these brothers. Yes. And God is just saying, just come closer to me. Come closer. It's a remarkable
I think this
story.
45, and we need to see this. They didn't recognize him at the first time. Yeah. The second time. Yeah. Zechariah 12. Come on. They're going to look on him whom they pierced. Yeah. And they're going to weep for him. Yeah. As one weeps for a firstborn. And it says that a fountain's going to be opened up, and that for the sin of uncleanness and everything else, there's going to be a great cleansing and washing and salvation. Yeah. And all Israel will be saved. Come on. This is exactly what he's saving all of Israel.
That is
he's saving all of Israel.
Yes, he is.
And the nation is going to be gathered in the incubator of Egypt for 400 years. And is going to be saved through Joseph. And all Joseph can think about is, guys, God did this. It wasn't you. God did this. He's moving in a completely different spirit. And I love this. They go tell dad. He falls. I just love this. He goes, go get dad down here. And then in verse 14, I love this. This is touching. He fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and he wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. He kissed all his brothers and he wept over them. And that his brothers talked with him. All right. So they get the word to Pharaoh, and now they're going to go back, and he goes, go get dad and tell him what's happened. I love this. Verse 27. This is hilarious. Verse 26. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he's the governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart stood still. He about had a heart attack.
Yeah.
He about passed out and died. He could not. He didn't even know what to do with this. And then when they told him, his spirit revived. And so now they're on their way. Jacob, all the wives, all the children, all the livestock are on their way. And we see all the sons in chapter 46, all the children. And then we see chapter 26, verse 29. Now we got the great restoration of Joseph and Jacob. Joseph made ready his chariot, went up to Goshen to meet his father Israel, and he presented himself to him, and he fell on his neck, and he wept on his neck a good while. And look at what Israel said, let me die. Since I've seen your face, because you're still alive. And now we have this whole moment. They've been given the land of Goshen. That's where they're going to live, and that's where they're going to serve. And we're seeing all this stuff. I mean, Jacob is kind of recounting his own life. The Lord visits Jacob and kind of restates the covenant that he's made with him. Yeah. And now we see the salvation. Let's get to 49.
Yeah.
And you talk to us about some of these last words, because again, I want to say it. Joseph is saving the nation.
Joseph is saving the nation. It's remarkable. And the interesting thing, bro, is every force of nature and hell would have said and desired, like we talked about in a previous podcast, to see Israel wiped out.
Yes.
When God sends a man, he equips that man. Yes. When God sends a man, he is glorified in the end. So he's in his last days, and he gathers together his sons. Yes. And over each son, he pronounces a word. Verse 3, Reuben, you're my firstborn. Verse 5, Simeon and Levi are brothers. Verse 8, Judah. But listen to this. Listen to this. Do you know that in the book of Revelation, Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah? That means that Jesus's lineage wasn't through Joseph.
That's right.
It was through Judah. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. So Joseph is this salvific person, but really this story is about he saved his brothers so that one of those brothers could be the source of salvation, not only to all of his 11 brothers, but to the world.
That's right.
This is phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Phenomenable? I just made up a word. Judah, verse 8 of chapter 49. Your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion cub. From the prey, my son, you've gone up. He couches, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion who dares to rouse him up? Verse 10. This is such an important verse. It's speaking of the Messiah. The scepter. What's a scepter? It's a sign of authority, right? It's the king's authority. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until Shiloh comes. Shiloh, speaking of the Messiah, literally the one to whom it belongs, until the one to whom it belongs comes, and to him, Jesus, shall be the obedience of all the people.
My goodness.
Wow. God sent a man to preserve a family so that one from that family will ultimately produce Jesus, who comes to save his family. Jesus, who was not recognized in his first coming, so that salvation can come to the nations. Bro, I want to close in a minute, but you know what I'm reminded of? You would think this would be a great end of the story right here for God. Yeah. But what happens next? 400 honking years of slavery, which was foretold by God, who prophesied to Abraham, you will be 400 years. And then another Joseph-like figure, Jesus-like figure, Moses comes. You mentioned him a while back in a podcast, who was who was capable at 40, but God sends him to the backside of the desert, death, 40 years. This is a recurring story. And just when we think it should end and the Lord should return, there's still a preparation. You said either in this podcast or in a previous one that Joseph wasn't ready to come out of prison.
Yes.
The people of Israel, bro, are not ready yet for their Messiah. No matter, even though they've been through the rebirth of Israel after the Holocaust. There's been miracle after miracle. Their hearts, though, are not prepared like Joseph's heart was prepared or their brother's heart was prepared. So in the final minutes, I want to let you land the plane, finish us out. Chapter 50, an amazing chapter. I just want to give one more verse, bro. Chapter 50, verse 18. Listen to this. Then his brothers came and fell before him. Behold, we're your servants. You see, they were freaking out.
Because Dad died. And now Joseph can exact his revenge on them and do to them what they feel like they deserve. Yes.
But Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for am I in God's place? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about the present result. Why? To preserve many people alive. The end of the story. God gives life to the dead.
I just want to, I am just blown away. There's so many things that I could look at. One of my favorite things is it says in Hebrews 11 that even Jacob, it says by faith that Jacob leaned on his staff and he blessed each one of Joseph's children. Think about that. He got to see not only Joseph, his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh. And it says, and he blessed each one of his grandchildren.
Bro, that's so
and he leaned on his staff, which makes me think about his wrestling match with the angel of the Lord all night.
Wow.
And for the rest of Jacob's life, he's going to limp as God made covenant and promises with Jacob, saying, you and generations and everything that I'm going to give you. And here's Jacob. And to let us into his life, the firstborn of Rachel's died in his mind. He's thinking his whole life is in shambles. And here he is at the very end of his life, getting to see his grandchildren and being able to bless them and to worship the God of faithfulness who made a promise, who made covenant and was true to his word. And I want to take that away no matter what these chapters may look like. There's many people that are watching this, they got words in their early years. They got promises from God, and yet they're walking through years, even decades, to where it looks so far from ever happening. There are things that are dead, relationships that are dead, impossible things that are happening. And I take great comfort and strength from reading the story of Joseph, the story of Jacob, all the patriarchs, and the whole story to say, keep your eyes on the covenant-keeping God. Feed on his faithfulness and walk through every one of these seasons, because he who said it is going to make it come to pass, and getting set free from the pain along the way. Amen. That's what Joseph had to get set free. You meant it for evil. God meant it for good. And which means getting set free from what people, how the pain that comes along the journey. Because I find so many people get hung up when they're done wrong, betrayed, rejected, used, manipulated, and it does whatever. And we get lost in the weeds of, if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be here. And I want to say, God, we see it in the word, and we see it in the life of Jesus, the one who was sold by Judas.
30 pieces of silver.
30 pieces of silver. Joseph was sold for 20. And here we have it, that the betrayal and the rejection, he went out ahead of them. He went out ahead of them for an hour of tribulation and famine. He's going to be revealed to them and save them. That's what I see in this story, and I'm just in awe of it.
So amazing, bro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
As we've been sitting here these last 4 episodes, my heart has been, it's like pounding inside of me, because as desirous as Jacob was, like he couldn't believe his son was alive. That's how desirous God is of seeing Israel brought back into the family. His heart beats for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And friends, I just want to encourage you. Don't lose hope in the midst of your trial and in the midst of your suffering. God's promises are faithful and God's promises are true. Corey, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they find Corey Russell? Where can they find your materials, please?
CoreyRussell.org is our main website, and we've got a lot going from traveling. I've got an online school and family, and we're literally walking through the Bible right now. Because I care about connecting the church to Hebrew roots and understanding the story of God all the way through. So we're walking through that in the online space, but everything is at CoreyRussell.org.
CoreyRussell.org. Please go there. If you want to look for an amazing ministry to sow seed into, this man is a voice to the nations. I encourage you, CoreyRussell.org. Bro, I can't thank you enough. This has been an amazing, amazing 4 weeks. I love you and I love you. Bless you.
Thank you.